If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stats Show, is for you. My name is Christopher Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it is Alice Bullard. We'll come to Alice in a second. Why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed with the property market. Whenever the Land Registry throws something out, it's front page news. But I don't know if you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, when the Land Registry publish something, they're looking at sales that took place 8, 9, 10 months ago. The Nationwide and the Halifax, always front page news. But again, that's sales that took place 2 or 3 months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at sales that took place last week. We're looking at the property market last week. So if you want to know what's happening to house prices and everything else to do with the property market, then this show is for you. My name is Christopher Watkin, and as I said, I'm joined by Alice Bullard, who is a superstar and MD of a fantastic estate agency in London. Thanks for joining me today, Alice.
Thank you for having me back on this great show.
That's all right. Now, Alice, you've just come back from a little bit of maternity leave. How have the people at Nested, which is your lovely firm, coped without you?
Well, they have coped extremely well. Probably a lot better than actually having me there, maybe, Chris. No, they've been fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better team when it comes to all the support and everything. So yeah, it's been great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alice is a little pocket rocket superstar watcher. She is going places in this industry, and listen to what she has to say. For those of you who have not watched the show before, the show lasts approximately 1 hour, split approximately into 2 halves. The first half is where we talk about the property market in the UK, and we look at listings, sales, exchanges, prices achieved, rents, everything else like that. And then secondly, we then go to a town or a city and really deep dive and analyze the estate agent population in that town. This week, we are going to the beautiful town of Ashford in Kent. And if you are an Ashford agent, you're going to be wanting to watch that. If you're not an Ashford agent and you don't have an interest, then you might want to switch off. But however, if you're an agent who's suffering from overvaluing or cheap fees and you're being clobbered by your competition, we're going to be using a bit of kit when we're analysing the agents in Ashford, and we're going to spot the agents that overvalue. We're going to spot the agents that do cheap fees, pardon me, and we're going to be able to point a finger to them and say, look, they don't do very well because. And the bit of kit that we're going to use, you can use on the vendor's sofa to prove that you are a better agent. So if you suffer from overvaluing or cheap fee agents, you might want to watch that part of the show. Right, before we get there, let's go back to the first part of the show, which is the looking at the UK property market. We are looking at week 5, which is, let's just double check this, Monday the 8th. Sorry, I've still got a bit of flu from last week, ladies and gentlemen. Monday the 2nd of February, all the way through to include Sunday the 8th of February. That is week 5. And we will be analysing and comparing and contrasting week 5 against other week 5s. And we'll also be comparing it year to date, compared for every year going back to 2017. So without further ado, let us go and have a look at those stats. So as always, what happens is we always start with the listings. I spend about 30 seconds talking about it, and then we'll get the wonderful Alice from Nested to come and give her opinion. So this week we have put onto the market 36,992 properties. To give you an idea of where that stands, we're looking at the white line here on this graph here. Last week it was 36,600. The week before that, 35,200, 32,800. And 28,500. So the white line there, and that shows us against the other weeks in all the years that you can see here. We've particularly excluded 20, 21 and 22, but we will be bringing those back in a second. You'll see that for the year-to-date figures. Apologies for my that's cold. The average price of a property coming onto the market is 425,900. And year to date, we have put onto the market not an immense amount, not a small number,
Mm.
170,100 properties, which is 1% higher than last year, 12.1% ahead of 2024, 24.2% ahead of 17, 18, and 19, and overall, looking at the 10-year average, 16.4% higher than the long-term 10-year average. Over to you, Alice. Your thoughts, scores on the doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, you're an absolute trooper, Chris, with your flu. So good job muddling through. Look, graph three. What a lovely graph to see, right? Like that line, very positive. It does show you that the seller sentiment is there. I think there's probably a little bit of maybe people that would have come on the market maybe the back end of last year that maybe put their sort of plans on hold because they were waiting for the stamp duty and then thought it's Christmas, wait for the new year, etc., etc. But I think that's overall extremely positive. With anything though, I am quite usually a cautious person, so this is because my kind of view on it. I think when you see stuff like this, you've just got to make sure, like, yes, this is really great. There are sellers there that are wanting to move, which is great to have that seller sentiment, but be really cautious of the fact that there's obviously quite a lot of stock coming to the market. So giving the advice to your customers, the right advice, both marketing and price, is hugely important when you see lines like this. But yeah, overall, fantastically positive.
Might be a good idea, ladies and gentlemen, to show us what stock levels are. Now, on the numbers here show the number of properties that were for sale on the 31st of January going into the 1st of February. And you can see here that we're at 663,300 compared to 600, well, nearest damn it the same, 659,000. Well, we'll call it 660. So nearest damn it
Mm.
the same. Um, and obviously it is higher than what it was pre-COVID levels. Again, let's just remind ourselves in 2008, this figure was 1.4 million. So
Mm.
again, I know I say it on a number of shows, property prices are driven by demand and supply. Classic page one,
Mhm.
GCSE economics. And the reason house prices dropped, everyone dumped their houses on the market, supply went up. There was the credit crunch, which means people couldn't get mortgages so well, which means demand were curtailed. When you have excess supply and not enough demand, prices go down. So therefore, yes, the stock levels are higher than they were pre-COVID levels, but actually the number of properties selling is actually slightly higher as well, which we'll come on to in a
Yeah.
second. And I think what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, if you are an estate agent, is this is a stat that I would naturally do every single at the end of every month. I would go on to Rightmove, how many properties are for sale, tick the little box that says include sold subject to contract, and then that adds the extra solds on, and then obviously you take those two numbers. You obviously only need to take one from the other to get the sold figures, and then just track those numbers. Now, if you were really smart, you would track that down onto type, detached, semis, terraced, and flats. And if you were really super duper smart, you do 3 bed semis, 2 bed semis, 2 bedroom flats, 1 bedroom flats. Just to give you a flavour, because if you're looking for a canary in the mine. I don't know if you've ever
Mm.
heard of that phrase, but for those people that have not, some of the youngsters that have not watching this, who haven't heard of that phrase, yeah, basically miners used to take canaries into the mines, and if there was gas, the canaries would actually they'd be singing all the time, and when the canary stopped singing because it was gassed, which again I know they wouldn't do this nowadays,
Yeah.
they knew that it was an early warning system for poisonous gas. And this is a fantastic way to judge the direction of a market in advance,
Mm.
remembering that it does go up and up and up and up throughout the sun. Look, I mean, again, we just hold on. There we go. Hold on. The shape is always Jan, February, March, April, May, June,
Yeah.
July, August. and then it drops. Okay, so just take that into account. If you know that is the way it works in stock levels.
Mhm.
So don't worry that if throughout the spring it's getting higher. It will. The question is it growing at that sort of level, or is it just going whoosh, rocket level?
Yeah.
Anyway,
The
anyway,
question is also obviously about buyers and whether buyers are following suit and they're offering on those properties as well. Great advice. I think, like, sorry, we're going on our soapbox again, and we always seem to do this. But I think that knowing those stats that you just mentioned about your area, and like you said, drilling it down to detached houses, semi-detached houses, flats, etc. When you're in that living room and you're giving that data to the customer, it's going to make you stand out a hell of a lot over your competition. And this data is so easy to obtain. Like, data is not hard to get anymore. So there's kind of almost like no reason why people shouldn't have those stats
I
in
mean,
the living room to give to their customers.
you know, you're at a party and someone finds out you're an agent. They always ask the same question, four
What's
words.
the property? Yeah.
What's
What's
the
the property
market like?
market?
What's
What's
the
the
property
market like?
like? And again, I find it fascinating that no one actually talks about it on their social
Yeah.
medias.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. Right, let's move on. Price reductions 21,044, which again is very, very similar to what it was last week. The average price of a property being reduced is 402,000. I think this is the most important. Is that in January, 1 in 8 properties on agents' books were being reduced, and we say
Mm.
this every week. Ain't enough.
Yeah. I mean, this is the classic, what the point that we've just made, right, about data. There is so much data available to you. So, like, giving the customer all the insight into how their property is performing, but also the wider market during the first couple of weeks of marketing. You can't expect sellers to just shave off 10 to 20K without having facts and understanding of actually A, what's happening to their property, and B, what's happening in the wider market. So knowing those numbers is going to massively help you get those price reductions. And also, when it comes to price reductions, I'm very old school with this approach. I think going back, having a revisit to the customer in their living room, looking them in the eye, showing them the stats. Don't have that phone call and just think that, again, that sellers just going to reduce their price by 20K. Look them in the eyes and really take them on that journey. Makes such a difference when it comes to price
Well,
reductions. But yeah, this has to be higher for sure.
I mean, certainly, if there's any bosses watching this, this is from Ian White, who used when Romans. Don't get me wrong, Romans are big, but when Romans were, everyone quaked in their boots when 20
Mm.
years ago. And what they did is that every single listing, the lister couldn't come back to the property, to the office with a signed sole agency agreement unless the valuer had booked in at the listing a 3 week face-to-face meeting with the vendor.
Yeah, it's great.
And,
Old
and
school
what,
approach. Why we're relying too much on email nowadays, and the odd phone call.
yeah,
Get in front of the customer.
what happened is this. Something quite miraculous had happened.
Mm.
Valuers, they go into hiding, witness protection when they put a house on the market, is that they soon get off their backside and get the property sold because they don't want that embarrassing chat without
Yeah.
3 weeks' time. And that, and it's just such a simple thing to do,
Mm.
but it does make all the difference. Okay, right. Okay, sorry, no, right. Let's move on to sold subject to contracts. So this week, gross sales 25,411. Last week it was 600 more at 26,000. We'll just pull that up now. The week before 24,5, 21,1, and 16. So we've had a little dip. So again, all the doom mongers, you can start waving your flag. Oh, hold on a second. Look, we always have a little bit of a dip. It takes off. It doesn't keep going up like a rocket. She dips, and now we're going to have a little bit of a woo, like something like
Hmm.
that. Okay, now again, let's just remind ourselves we're going to wait. We've got another 6, 7 weeks before we enter Easter and bank holiday season, which where we have the roller coaster. But basically, this white line is going to probably go somewhere between definitely higher than 24, which is
Hmm.
the turquoise line, but probably not as much as 2025. Okay.
Yeah.
2025 was a particularly good start to the year because we had the stamp duty. And again, I'm sure there were no agents at all in Q1 saying, let's get your house sold and we'll get you in for the 5th of April. Yeah, okay. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's none of those whatsoever. Right, okay, let's go back. Okay, average price of a property sold subject to contract, 355. We'll look at this in a second. A cumulative year to date, yeah, we are 7.3% ahead of, sorry, we're 7.3% behind 2025 figures. We're 14.8% ahead of 2024, and we are 22.9% ahead of 17, 18, and 19. Okay. And as I said, there's your gross sales. It's not bad, is it?
No, not bad. I think you pointing out about the Q1 last year and the kind of the stamp duty deadline, I think is obviously clearly having a massive impact there. I mean, you're right. There would have been so many estate agents who would have said, "Yeah, of course we can get it through for you," and there would have been some that would have gone through if it had been chain free, both sides, and freehold and good solicitors, but. That obviously has had a massive impact. I think that it's looking really positive this year. As I said, whenever you look at the number of listings that come onto the market, and it's quite a high number, you always tend to just like be a bit cautious and make sure that that kind of like supply and demand curve is also following a similar trend. And this obviously is showing that it is. Like first time buyers, there are a lot of first time buyers out there at the moment. We're seeing that in a lot of the press that's coming out. The sub 5% mortgages that we've got for first time buyers is really kind of fueling that. So again, really positive overall. I think it's great.
Good stuff. Let's just remind ourselves here, ladies and gentlemen, that if you recall, the average price of a property that's going to sale agreed is 355, and the average price of a property coming on the market is 425.
What's the
So,
first number again? Sorry.
well, we've got it here,
Three
42.
five four
So the
two
average,
five.
so the average price of a property coming onto the market, 425. The
Mhm.
average price of a property going to sale agreed is 355, which means there is a difference of 19.7%. This is quite normal. Doesn't mean that all properties are being dropped down by 70 grand. Nothing could be further from the truth. Sorry, pardon me. What is happening is lower price properties have a higher chance or propensity of selling. So it's just, again, if you are, well, remember, you're as an estate agent, if you're going for the £1 million market, your chances of getting a sale are probably half as much as the ones that are selling at around three or £400,000. So just bear that in mind. I know they look good on the coffee table and in the window. Again,
Mm.
there's the same graph. The turquoise line is the average sale agreed asking price. And again, let us not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that apart from COVID year, the average difference between the sale, this is a fantastic number for those of you with regard to trying to get the price down. In the last 25 years, apart from the COVID year, the average difference between a final asking price, i.e., before it went sale agreed,
Mhm.
and the sale agreed price has always been between 0.9 and 1.3% less.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not talking about the initial asking price, we're talking about the final asking price before it went sale agreed. It's a great way. So again, just bear that in mind. Right, let's go resi sell through rate. The resi sell through rate. What percentage of your stock on the books did you sell in January? And the UK on average sold 13.6% of the houses that they had on their books. And again, look at the cyclical nature of this business. Look, they're all the same shape. I love it.
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
love this, Mark. I just love the fact is that you could actually draw
You
that
you
line now.
yeah, all the way up for like 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like keep going. You know what it looks like. Yeah.
That was COVID, so we can ignore that. But look, it's still got the same shape in 21, up and down, a little up there. That's always the end of August, September run,
Mhm.
drops down. Just wonderful. Right, let's move on. Fall throughs. 5,468 fall throughs. which represented 21.52% when compared to gross sales. So if you had 100 gross
Mm.
sales and 21 fall throughs, 21 expressed as a percentage of 100 is 21. That's where that figure comes from. Now, Alice, something I have noticed is that the number of fall throughs, or more importantly, the percentage, for the last few weeks has been quite low in the 21s and 22s. So
Great.
I know we had that.
Mm.
Ignore the percentages because they always go wild at Christmas, as you can see here. But fundamentally, I've just noticed that the number of fall throughs in the last 12 months, generally, as a
Mm.
percentage of sales, has been, look,
It's
a couple of percent
start.
lower. Not much.
Yeah.
I don't know
Interesting.
what.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't got all the answers.
Motivated buyers.
Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, this is a good
Lenders,
graph.
maybe lenders not being as strict, maybe.
Don't know. I mean, it's only a couple
Hypothesizing
of.
here.
It's only a
Yeah.
couple of percentage. Hey, guys and
It's a
girls,
good observation though.
it's not much, but it's a little bit.
Mm.
Maybe they've actually been listening to the show and take on board such things as reservation agreements. Okay, right. The percent, right. I think this is always done a month in arrears. We've had the stats through. What percentage of your sales pipeline fell through? And um, in January it was about 5.5%. So if you're losing more than 5.5% of your sales pipeline, let's just remind ourselves what the pipelines look like. Here we no, not that one. It's this one. So as we went in 31st of Jan into the 1st of Feb, and again it's the same time of month on all of those others, 422,000 properties in agents' sales
Mm.
pipelines. Again, we're all suffering from getting them through. Look at this. Look at this. I just find it fascinating that there was 281. And again, this is very important. Some people are going to say, well, hold on a second. It's Sales are taking longer. They were taking 17 to 19 weeks then, boys and
Back
girls.
then, yeah.
They're not, nothing's changed. It's always been rubbish. So again, pipelines are nice and big and chunky. Well
Mm.
done.
I
And
think
again,
compared to last year, when obviously we had such a large pipeline going into the year because of the stamp duty, I think that number is very positive,
very
like
much so.
in
Very much
comparison.
so. You're so right. Right, okay, let's move over to net sales. So gross sales less fall throughs equals net sales, 19,943, which is 800 less than last week. But again, before we all start panicking
Mhm.
and running to the hills, again, it's not going to be a constant exponential curve. It's just going to bubble along quite nicely, I believe,
Mhm.
around that 1920 mark. And if you look, 2025 was that it's going to be around there.
Yeah,
And again, let's not forget, look at 2023, which is the pink figure. Just have a quick look. Come on, there we go. Look, that's 2023,
yeah.
pink line. So let's not worry too much about keep an eye on it. Let's not worry too much, okay? Right, okay, let's come back out again. Okay, anything else on net sales before we go and look at some other graphs before we go?
No, no.
Price changes as a percentage of listings and gross sales as a percentage of listings. I know some of you like that.
Mhm.
I find them quite boring, but some of you like them, so there you go. Uh, Again, this figure does change every week because we're always doing a month in arrears. The red line is the number of exchanges. The yellow line is the number of withdrawals. And again, a lot more listings, ladies and gentlemen, but look at the number of withdrawals. And to give you an idea, in January, 47% of properties that left agents' books withdrew unsold. 53 you got paid on with exchanged. Again, I will
Mm.
go on until the cows come home. You have a wonderful
This
chance.
this graph upsets me every time I see it on your show. But you can't argue with the data, you can't argue with the facts. And I think if you were to say that number in front of a client when you're bringing on a listing, I think that sellers would feel very demotivated about that number. But that is what that's the number. That's why it's important to be pricing your stock right. Only take on properties that you believe that you have a very good chance of selling, making sure the marketing is top notch. And then if you're doing all those things and you're selling your stock, knowing what your numbers are in comparison to other local agents. Because if you can then go in and say, actually, mine's 75%, and with all of the local agents, it's 53%, like it's a no-brainer to go with you. But yeah, national average, this is it's upsetting.
Well, well, if you recall, ladies and gentlemen, at the top of the show, we said that we're going to be going to Ashford, and one of the metrics that what our screen does is actually shows you what percentage of houses that you list do you actually exchange and complete on, which again is something you don't get on Rightmove Plus. Big fan of Rightmove Plus, but you just simply don't. So therefore, if you're looking to try and prove that you're a better agent, that bit of kit that we're going to go through in Ashford is certainly something
Yeah.
you might want to look at. Obviously, you've got to be as good as what you think you are.
Yeah,
Right.
and also though, like at Chris, we talk about how easy stats are to get. You've got your own internal stats, so you know your own numbers, and if you know what the average is for the nation, and you're performing above that, then that's still in itself a very credible thing to be able to say in the living room. Like you know
Certainly.
your internal stats, so there's kind of no excuse really not to know them.
Indeed. And what I would say is this, and again, we're not on commission, but the bit of kit we're going to show you later, the cost is probably a decent bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, and I'm sure you're back on it now. Now you've now
No,
baby's gone,
yeah,
not
my
not
my
yet
wine fridge was massive when
burgeoning,
I came back. Yeah.
burgeoning. A decent Sauvignon Blanc or a Gavi or something from
Yeah.
Italy, and or wherever a wine that you're into, ladies and gentlemen. Um, for the cost of a decent take four-person takeaway with a decent bottle of wine, you can prove that you're a better agent. Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm not on commission. Right, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am a massive fan of the pound per square foot measurement, especially the yellow one, which is sold subject to contract. Ladies and gentlemen, the shape and difference of that sold subject to contract pound per square foot figure tallies with a 92% accuracy rate the land registry in 5 months' time. So if you want to know what's happening to house prices 5 months in advance to the land registry figures, which an awful lot of people put, and we said at the start of the show, they put a lot of reference from, then follow that yellow line. And you can see here that the yellow line is bumbling along quite nicely around that 335, 340 mark. What basically means is this: house prices in the next 6 months are bumbling along at that sort of level in terms of changing it. But it's a great way to know where the top of the market is. So again, the top of the market here,
Mhm.
this was April. We knew the top of the market on the land registry was 5 months later. So again, ignore the red line. This is just, remember, that's going up like a bit more like a rocket. Again, that's well, it doesn't matter what they come on the market for. It's what they bloody well sell for. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
Okay, and the exchange is a nice one to look at. Again, I'm a bit suspicious about this little run here. The 348 in January. However, I'll get a refresh figure on that next month. So I always take the exchange with a
Mhm.
slight pinch of salt, but the sold subject to contract, absolutely bang on. Ladies and gentlemen, these graphs, I have no issue with you downloading them and using them at the evaluation, not on social media, but on graphic, to show that you know what you're talking about. Please do download them. They're available on YouTube. Scroll to the bottom of the description. Nice little download. No, don't worry, none of you will, because you're lazy, but one of you might, and you might look like you know what you're talking about. Like the final two graphs, not many people of you like this one, but the proportional split between sales and sold to the contract, and then the actual numbers as well. Again, just showing you the mix there. Okay, that is the end of the first part of the show. Is there anything that's burning that you want to say now, or you can save it to the end, Alice?
Not burning, but just to reiterate, data is hugely important. So easy for you to obtain. So, like, know your stats, what's happening in the market, um, and just be that person that's sitting in front of the customer and educating them. We talk a lot about marketing and making your marketing stand out. Hugely important. Make sure your comms stand out as well. And that can be done extremely easily. There's kind of no excuse, really.
You need to be the authority of your local property market, the guru,
Absolutely.
people that look up to. And if I look
Yeah.
at most of your social media, listing, 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 stop me, listing, listing. Oh, testimonial, meet the team, look what we've sold, pie chart, listing. Sorry, guys. Well, I mean, we're going to look at it in a bit when we go to Ashford. Honestly, it's an absolute crock of rude word. I'm not going to say the rude word, but it absolutely is. Um, you can dominate an agent by being the authority.
Yes.
And again, you're at a party and someone finds out you're an agent. How's the market? They're only asking because they're interested in it. And if you want
Mm,
people to be interested in you, all you have to do is talk about stuff they're interested in. But anyway,
absolutely.
there you go. So really, overall, property market doing okay. Nothing out of this world. Nothing untoward. Just getting on and
Mhm.
doing its own groovy thing. So, without further ado, let's move over to the second part of the show where we go to Ashford in Kent and see who is the best estate and letting agent in Ashford. Right, ladies and gentlemen, for this analysis, we're using a bit of kit that quite a number of estate agents have in the UK, and the bit of kit is called Insight. Insight is a platform that comes from the 20EA stable. They have a number of different software packages that do different things, business generation and all other groovy stuff like that. But Insight is a standalone platform, which is kind of like Rightmove Plus on steroids with lasers and glitter balls and just awesomeness attached to it. I'm not paid in any way, shape, or form to promote it. I am a massive fanboy of it. And um, the piece of kit I'm going to show you today is available to all agents in the UK. They have a free version, which allows you to look at the data only for the last 3 months, but gives you a little play of it. Then they have a one which allows you for your town and surrounding villages, which again is the up to 10 postcodes, which again, I'm not going to mention the price, and please don't mention my name, I'm not on commission, is for the cost of, as I said, a four-person takeaway and a decent bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. They also do a regional one and they also do a national one. And it is an amazing bit of kit. Do contact them if it is of interest to you. As I said, I don't get paid to do it, but they do give me the platform free of charge, which enable me to get the stats that you've seen in the first part of the show, and also allows me to have a play with this here. Ladies and gentlemen, my daytime job is not interviewing people on the sofa or winding people up about Rightmove pie charts. My daytime job is that I'm a property data scientist, economist, and I use property data to help estate and letting agents attract landlords and vendors to their agency. One of the bits of kit I use is this, and I do have lots of other data. So if you're an agent in Ashford and you're suffering from overvaluing, then if you wanted to pick the phone up to me and find out how over 100 agents in the UK trust me to help them attract landlords and vendors, give me a call. But if not, just ignore me. But don't worry about it. Here we go. So, as always, Alice, just jump in at any time, babes. Here we go. So, the first piece of kit we're going to look at is market share for resi sales. The postcodes that we are looking at are, let's have a look, TN 23, 24, 25, and 26, which is Ashford and the surrounding villages around it. The piece of kit goes back 5 years plus the year that we're in. So we're looking at the 1st of the 1st, 21, all the way through to the 9th of February. We're looking at new instructions again. You can look at all of those things there. It is absolutely wonderful piece of kit. And you can see here on a month by month basis, the number of listings that are happening. And you can see here that, back in 21, 188, 190 properties are coming on the market. and in January 258, which means that there was a 30% uplift in new properties coming onto the market in Ashford compared to 4 or 5 years ago. We're not putting new builds on because I personally think that skews the figures. And without further ado, you can see the graphs here, but it's very messy, and that is genuinely a good thing to see. Let us go and have a look at the different agents and see how well they have performed in the last 5 and a bit years. In the last 5 years, 389,984. It's the cold kicking and the flu. The average price of a property that's come onto the market, 389,000. 14,207 properties have come onto the market. Let's just have a look at how many have actually exchanged contracts. 8,000. So you put 14 on and you've been paid on 8. Okay. Put that back. Sorry, new instructions. Here we go. Right, without further ado, remember the 389 and let's just see which agents are moving and which ones are shaking.
It's tight at the top.
It certainly is. I mean, last week we were in Walthamstow, and there were two agents that had between 20 and 25% of the market, and the nearest person was in single digits, and it wasn't 9%; it was more like 4 or 5. What we've got here is that there appears to be 6 agents all slogging. Okay, I tell you what, let's get rid of HomeWise because HomeWise are that where you take your existing stock and recycle it. So let's take them out because it's not a true estate agent. And now all of a sudden we now have 5 estate agents, and you couldn't put a cigarette paper between them. You've got Connells, Hobbs, Gould and Harrison, Wards and Skippers. So let us have a look at the general trend of market share between those top 5. We will have a look at the others as well. So I'm seeing here that something happened with Skippers, that between 22 and 23, their market share was dropping. And then some wondrous thing happened at the back end of 23, and they pulled their socks up. And now, as I said, instead of around 6.5, they're now hovering around that 9 or 10 mark. So Skippers, nice one.
It might that change, like it just might be something small, like a new branch manager who's going in and sort of deciding that not to focus on just listings and to focus on the end of the funnel. It does show you that small changes like that can have a massive impact in a business.
Indeed.
I don't know what it is. It could be all sorts of things, but
they could have pulled their pants down on their fees as well. I'm sure all the other agents are shouting at the screen now. Yeah, we know what happened.
They did a 0.5% in my area.
Yeah, right. Okay. So Skippers average price 356. So again, just below the average in terms of price. So they're going for the lower to middle market. Let's go and look at Wards 357. Okay. Immediately, what's saying to me is feast and famine. 5%, 12%, 6%, 12%.
Yeah, very spiky.
Very spiky. I mean, the general trend is level, but very, very spiky. That would, if I was the senior management in Wards, I would be thinking, okay. Average price 357. Let's go look at Gould and Harrison. Okay. Let's just move. I'm just going to move the Fed because it's not very fair just to look at 1 month in isolation. So there we go. That's Gould and Harrison. And their general trend is a slight upward going through 21, 22 and 23. And then it looks like we've had a drifting down in 24 and 25. And then it looks like they've picked their socks up in the summer of last year and have slightly improved there. Okay. Average price 365. Hobbs. Oh, now are these the posh agents? Yes, they are. We will look at the posh. We will look at the upper quartile separately. So Hobbs. Again, we will look at the upper quartile in isolation. Generally, a slight drifting downwards, but not much. But we will look at their upper quartile in a second. Let's go to Connells. 318, so they're lower to middle market. Growth, nice one. Have we got any of their famous Boxing Day spikes. Here we go.
I'm sure we do.
No,
Oh, we don't. Take that back.
no, that's quite rare.
Yeah.
Okay. Have they not got the message? Not on brand from Leighton Buzzard? Come on, guys and girls. Okay. Hunters. Okay. Part of the franchise network. Oh, bit of growth there. That's quite nice to see. That could have been an acquisition, or it could be natural growth. There isn't quite seismic there. I don't know what's happening there. Okay. Miles and Bar.
Mm.
Okay. So what's that? I don't know. Did you not have a branch there and open one up? It's quite a big jump, but slight growth in 25. This one. Mannons, let's go on. Drifting downwards. Mockford and Hunt. Nice and steady. It's around that 3 mark. Evolution. It's nice and steady, but it's very spiky. Feast and Famine. You do get Feast and Famine at the lower end because the numbers are lower, so the spikies there, but just think if you could retain all those 6%, you'd be sitting at the big boys and girls table. Yeah, okay. Sanderson's drifting downwards. Hart improvement. Northwood improvement. Bradley Bishop dropping. EXP. Oh, hold on a second. Bradley Bishop, they stopped. So that they either closed or sold to someone else. EXP, nicely growing. We'll just finish off. Okay, as you'd expect, purple bricks slipping. Okay, right. Okay. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, some big, obviously, like you said, it's all kind of to play for, really, for top spot. It's all so close, isn't it? And very spiky, as you said.
Indeed, indeed. Right, let's move on now.
So sorry, I was just going to say, what's the last year looking like, or the last couple of
Oh
years?
yeah, we did say upper quartile, didn't we? Come on, come on, come on. Bad Watkin, bad Watkin. Right, okay, let's go 500,000 and see who the shakers and the movers are. So skippers are still number one.
Is it updated? Yes, it has. Sorry.
Oh, it
Yeah.
has now.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Okay. So Hobbs Parker. Okay, they are obviously the dominant
The
agent.
Waitrose.
Mm.
They're the BA.
Okay, they're the OG. Okay, we will. Okay, okay. That's all. Let's just go to a minute just for what's over giggles. Okay. Well, there's not much happening there. I mean, you've got your Savs and your Struts and your fight coming in, but again, the numbers are not huge, are they? Okay, not much. Yeah. Okay. Let's. Not much to see over that. I will just look at the last year and just see if there's anyone coming up on the rails. Particularly like to see the self-employed models, as you know, I'm a massive fan of those. So without further ado, skippers, where's the EXP?
That's jumped a few places, isn't it? Was like,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're at 3 or 4. That's going quite nicely. Again, keeping the same sort of levels there. It's a really.
I mean, Skipper's holding top spot, but Connells have jumped. Wards have dropped over the last year or so. Basically, the two big corporates have switched places.
Interesting, interesting. Right, let's move on. You're so right. Right, okay. Now then, if you've got this far and you're still looking on your mobile phone, can put it on a big screen, ladies and gentlemen. But there is some absolute gold here for certain agents. Okay. Now, I'm going to get all technical for a second now, and I will not apologise for this, but there are some agents. Let's get rid of HomeWise because, as I said, we are not interested in those. Okay, here we go. Right. So I want you to ignore new new instruction market share, sale agreed and sale subject to contract. You don't get paid for any of those. And I know you're going to say, well, you're going to have them on the market to sell them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My mum was saying that before you were born. Okay? This is where the magic happens here. These 4 columns here will make or break your estate agency. You see, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at your exchange percentage and withdrawn percentage on each line, you will notice they all add up to 100%. That is because the only 2 reasons a property leaves your books is you get paid on it, exchange it, and you get the bojangles, or you get the withdrawn and you've lost money and you never see him again. Okay, so just look at this. We're looking at the last 2 years, all house prices, and what's happened is this. We know for a fact that in the last 2 years, 532 properties have left Skipper's books in those price ranges, and we know that because we add up the exchanged and the withdrawn. Okay, and of that 532, 330 or 62.03% exchanged contracts, which means that, and again, let's just have a look. We'll just put this on now. Hold on. The average in Ashford is 52.79.
That was around about the average for the UK, right?
Certainly is. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we? So I'm going to put 62.03 divided by 52.79. And now all of a sudden, Skippers can say this. If you put your house on the market with Skippers, you have a 17.5% greater chance of moving home compared to the average Ashford agent.
Powerful.
If you wanted to put some extra turbo on it, you could do it the other way. Wait for this one. So we do the calculation the opposite way. So we divide 52.79 divided by 62, and we can say the following. This is what Skippers say. If you put your house on the market with the average Ashford agent, you have a 15% lower chance of moving home than you do with us. Fear of loss is greater than the pleasure of gain.
Yeah, 15% is high.
15, sorry. 15.
Oh yeah,
Still.
15% is
Or you
high.
could turn it around. You've got a, just a, you've got a just under a 1 in 6 chance of not move lower chance of selling.
Yeah, I
Do you-
think
do you
that's I think that's really high. If I was a seller and I heard that stat, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go with Skippers.
But again, let's just not forget here, okay, Connells are at 52, but Wards are at 60. Let's be chuffed to bits with that. And so are Goulds, and you can use this data yourself. Okay, but look, even at 57, we've got some big numbers here. Motford and Hunt at 65, Northwoods at 61. Some big numbers. Let's go and have a look and just see where the lower numbers are, okay? So Savills are at 18, but again, I would expect that because they're posh agents. Now, it was Gould and Harrison that are the posh agents. Let us move this up to 500,000.
It was Hobbs, wasn't it? The posh agents?
Was it Hobbs? Was it Hobbs? Sorry, my apologies. Let's move that up now. And now all the numbers change. And now let's have a look. So Hobbs and Parker. So again, here we go. So I'm going to put 53.06. This is Hobbs Parker divided by the average, which is 38.48. Hobbs and Parker can say, if you've got a property over £500,000 in Ashford, you have a 37.9% greater chance of moving home compared to the average Ashford agent.
You round it up as well, so 38%. Like that's a strong number.
Massive. Absolutely massive. Well done, Hobbs and Parker, on that sort of. Those are impressive numbers. But let's not forget Sanderson's here at 53. Yeah, that's they could say, well, they'll be slightly higher. Some good numbers there. Well done, everyone. But you can see the power of data to prove your thing. Because again, remember, if this is what I teach my agents, is this: if you want a human to make a decision, you have to emotionally get them bought in first. Because remember, 19 out of 20 decisions, the emotional brain has to say yes first. That's why, when you show them a load of comparables and they don't listen, because you haven't got emotional buy-in first. So get emotional buy-in first, and then you hit them with the data.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, bring them on that journey. You can't just make a phone call 4 weeks later and expect them to reduce their price.
You are so right. You are so right. Right, let's bring this back here and let's look at who are the fall through rates. Okay, so the fall through rates, the average is 25. So skippers, your fall through rate at 30.88% is quite high, but again, you are getting them through. So it looks like you're probably reselling them. So that shows good things, because they're normally a high fall through rate. Normally it follows through with a high withdrawn rate, but it's not. So again, that just shows you've got good systems in place. Fall through rates, is there anyone there that's screaming? Man and Co at 20, which are quite nice. Evolutions at 22.8, that's good to see. So there's some low fall through rates there. I'm particularly impressed with skippers. They must have some good internals.
Yeah, it does show you though, doesn't it? Like how easy this data is to digest, and if you have it, where you can make small tweaks and changes. Because yes, skippers are doing really good, but if they reduce their fall through rate, their percentage is going to go up even higher, right? You would assume. So, like knowing this data and how. This is my favorite point of this show. You don't show us this data before we come on, right? The guests, we see this live as you're seeing it, as your viewers seeing it, and how easy it is to just be able to digest very quickly. That's why I love it so much. It's fantastic. I'm not big either. Sorry, I'm also a big fan of this.
Again, as I said, just data doesn't care about feelings, but it proves what you're good and bad at, and what you need to improve on. And that's why I'm a massive fan of this bit of kit. Again, but anyway, let's get back. Price changes. So the average, 42.7% of homes get reduced. So who's reducing a lot? Well, I've got this one here at 52. Who's that? Wards. So again, there is. What you tend to find is this: there's a direct correlation between if you've got a high price change. So if you've got a high price change number, more than likely you're overvaluing. Not a problem if you do it well. We'll come on to that in a second. But the question is, if you've got a high price change percentage and a lowish exchange price, that means that you're waiting too long to bring the prices down. If you've got a high price change, it means you're overvaluing. But if you've got a high exchange figure, you're getting them down quickly. That's another scenario. Or if you've got a low price change percentage and you're still getting them through, it obviously means that you put them on the right price from day one. So immediately I'm looking at wards at 52, and that would ring a big alarm bell with me. However, their exchange ratio is at 60. So I'm guessing wards are really good with their vendor management and probably getting their prices down quite quickly.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. I think they're very corporate, aren't they, in the structure of get it on. They probably do that home visit 3 weeks later scenario that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, where you go back round and you get the reduction to get it sold. Get it on, get it down, get it sold. That's like the Foxtons jargon. I think it's probably very similar to what like end of the funnel, that's where that's the most important thing, right? Is the exchange ratio. So
it certainly is. Okay, so there's quite a mixture there. So I'll tell you what, let's go and see if we've got any agents who are overvaluing, and we'll flick back to this screen here. Okay, let's get rid of HomeWise. Right, lots of data here. Let me explain what's happening. Okay, we put them in the 20 year, put them in the order of just the number of listings that you put on the market in the last 2 years. Okay, so there you go. Ignore the numbers are relevant. The question is this, okay? Whenever you put a house, not question, the statement is this. Whenever you put a house on the market, 20EA have an AVM, automated valuation model price for that house, like a Valpal figure, others are available, and they then compare it to what you put it on the market for. And on average, skippers overvalued by 0.47%. Connells overvalued by 1.3, and Ward's at 4.27. We said we thought Ward's overvalued, and they do. But let's remind ourselves here: you've got an exchange ratio of 60, which means Wards are overvaluing.
But look at that average property would sell for.
I know we'll get to that in a second. Patience, my impatient one.
Sorry.
Patience, patience. Well, that's telling me is this: Wards are overvaluing, but they're getting their prices down quick, which is, you might agree. I quite like. As long as you're telling the vendor, getting them down quick, that's fine. Okay. So Wards are overvaluing. Anyone else in the big players? No. Okay, you got Hart at 2.8, but that's neither here nor there. Right. What price did you achieve from the original asking price? And on average, skippers achieved 2.85% from the original asking price, Connells 3.5, and Wards at 4.29. So what happens is this: a lot of people don't like percentages. So if everyone put on a 400 grand house, what would each achieve for it? And skippers would get 390, Connells 391, and Wards at 399. So what that's telling me is this: if you're a vendor in Ashford and you're looking to get a damn good price for your house, then, well, not the biggest, but Wards seem to be doing really well.
Yeah.
And for their vendors, they are achieving on average £12,300 more than the average Ashford agent. So what you could say, but then don't get me wrong, skippers are achieving £3,541 more than the average Ashford agent. So lots of stuff there happening. And again, this is a great way to beat cheap fees if you are using, if you're up against cheap fees and you say, well, look, I can get you an extra grand than an average agent. So it's all good stuff. Right. Okay. Let's see who is selling houses quickly. So we had skippers are taking on average 59 days from new instruction to sale agreed, which is better than the Ashford average at 84. Gould and Harrison, 72 days. Northwood, 61. Hobbs and Parker, were they the posh ones? Yeah, they were, weren't they? 100, 118 days. Okay, and then let's just see who, so Northwood get the houses through a lot quicker. 153 days from new instruction to completion, whilst Miles and Bar, 205 days. So again, if you're an agent that gets the stuff through quickly, this is a great screen for you. Finally, let us go and look at the lettings market. Okay. And we'll start off with Connells and oh dear. So that is really good.
That's not normal, is it? We don't
No,
usually.
it's not normal. That's really good. Now we don't know if Connells have bought someone out in Ashford. If you haven't, then I'm a big round of applause for that. If that is natural growth, your lettings department at Connells is truly exceptional. If it's an acquisition, well, okay. But again, let's look at Martin and Co. Drifting downwards, but looks like we've had a bit of growth there. Again, we don't know the size of the portfolio, but what we do know is this: the bigger the portfolio, the number of new lets coming up on your relets is a good indication. I used to be national recruitment guy for Belvoir, and we have formulas for different types around the UK, and you can normally get it within about 5%, depending where you're on the country or the portfolio. So that's nice to see. Open rent at number 3. Okay, so that's very similar to the national figures at around, but again, let's just remind ourselves there. So open rent. Now, this is the absolutely scary bit, ladies and gentlemen. In the last 3 years of all the properties that have come onto the market to open rent for the first time, not relets, for the first time. 51% of them were previously on the market with a high street agent. Purple bricks, you were all running around like headless chickens in purple bricks. This is the true where it's not good. Open rent. Okay, let's look at Northwood. Growth. Well done.
Good to see. I think
Skippers.
I'm not a lettings expert, but with all of the rent reforms that have happened, this is just a really good time to show your worth as an estate agent. Know all of that information to pass on to landlords, because otherwise they do just go to your open rents. You've got to be able to prove that you're worth that extra fee when it comes to lettings nowadays.
You certainly do. We'll just whiz through these down to the 20th position. There we go. Okay. Right. Okay. I think that's the end of Ashford and Wren. If you're an Ashford agent and you're looking to be called out to more valuations, then please do consider giving me a call. But if you're happy with your lot, just ignore me. I can always work for one of your competitors. Right. Okay. Final words from you.
Final words. Well, look, if you've made it towards the end of the show, you clearly love stats as much and data as much as we do. So just make sure you're using your data that you have available to you. There's loads of free stuff out there. You don't need the insights data, although it's fantastic, great money. You've got your own internal stats, you've got the national average. Use those data points to prove your worth, both in the living room and then when it comes to the customer journey as well. That's a key takeaway, I'd say, for today.
Exceptional as always, Alice, and thank you for your insight. Thank you for your input. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week for week 6 of the UK property market, which will be coming out next Friday. Thank you very much.